Imagine waking up in a world where the gentle hum of electric vehicles is as commonplace as the chirping of morning birds, where city streets and rural highways alike are dominated by sleek machines silently gliding past old gas stations, now reborn as bustling rapid-charging hubs. The electric vehicle revolution is no longer a futuristic fantasy or the vision of a select few dreamers. It's a living reality, reshaping mobility before our very eyes. But here's the hidden truth. The fiercest and most consequential battle for the future of transportation isn't being fought in plain sight. It isn't raging on the factory floor, in government committee rooms, or in the protests we see on the evening news. Instead, it unfolds in the high-stakes, shadowy boardrooms of the world's most influential automakers, far from the scrutiny of the public and the headlines that shape public opinion. According to R.J. Scaringe, the passionate and candid CEO of Rivian, the biggest barrier to widespread electric vehicle adoption isn't governmental gridlock, outdated infrastructure, or skeptical consumers. Instead, Scaringe insists, the true resistance comes from the very companies that publicly claim to be leading the charge toward electrification. Scaringe doesn't mince words. The biggest adversaries against electrification are big original equipment manufacturers. We battle that reality every single day. It's so frustrating to see companies talk out of both sides of their mouth. Publicly, they're pro-electrification, but in policy discussions, they're fiercely anti-electric vehicle. Let's rewind for a moment and explore how we arrived at this pivotal crossroads. Over roughly the past decade, the electric vehicle, or EV market, has undergone a dramatic, almost cinematic transformation. What began as a niche for early adopters, tiny city cars with limited range, quirky shapes, and uncertain futures, has evolved into a global powerhouse, fundamentally changing how people and goods move across continents. In the earliest days, skepticism was rampant. Could batteries ever rival the convenience, power, and range of internal combustion engines? Would the driving public ever trust a car they couldn't refill in a matter of minutes at a corner gas station? Yet, despite the doubters, relentless technological innovation and waves of investment have propelled the industry forward. Barriers once considered insurmountable have fallen, one by one. The heart of every electric vehicle is its battery, and here the pace of progress has been nothing short of astonishing. In the early 2010s, battery packs cost more than $1,000 per kilowatt-hour, and even the best electric vehicles struggled to reach 100 miles of range. Today, costs have plummeted by more than 4/5, and energy density has soared. Consider the breakthrough Quillen battery from CATL, which now allows electric vehicles to travel over 600 miles on a single charge, a milestone that would have seemed like science fiction not long ago. And the story isn't over yet. Solid-state batteries, anticipated to enter mass production by the year 2027, promise to boost energy density by half, slash charging times, and further drive down costs. Imagine a world where fully recharging your electric vehicle is as swift and effortless as grabbing your morning coffee. But even the most impressive technologies don't guarantee mass adoption. Policy choices, infrastructure development, and the psychology of consumers are equally critical. Governments worldwide have woken up to the enormous potential of electric vehicles to fight climate change, cut urban air pollution, and reduce dependence on imported oil. Ambitious mandates, generous subsidies, and aggressive emission standards have sprouted across continents. In the United States, for instance, the number of public charging ports is projected to grow to 160,000 by the end of 2025. Up from 120,000 just the year before. Europe, with its strict emission standards and robust subsidies, is experiencing a surge in electric vehicle demand. But the real powerhouse is China. With a tightly integrated supply chain, supportive government policies, and fierce domestic competition, China has accelerated to command over 3/5 of global electric vehicle sales as of 2024. By 2025, global sales of electric vehicles are expected to reach 22 million units, a staggering figure that underscores the rapid pace of this transformation. Beneath these headlines, however, a subtler and more complex struggle is taking place. Legacy automakers, the very companies that once revolutionized personal and commercial transportation, now find themselves at a strategic and existential crossroads. In public, they unveil dazzling concept cars, set bold zero-emissions targets, and plaster ad campaigns with images of green mobility. But behind closed doors, their actions often reveal a starkly different agenda. As Scaringe and other insiders have highlighted, Many of these industrial giants are actively lobbying against policies that would accelerate electric vehicle adoption, delaying investments in new manufacturing lines, and fiercely protecting their lucrative gasoline-powered vehicle businesses. For example, General Motors has lobbied intensely to prevent California from setting its own strict emission standards. By winning support in the United States Senate to strip the state of this authority, they managed to stymie local progress and expose the sharp contrast between what these companies say and what they do. Other legacy automakers have adopted similar chameleon-like tactics, adjusting their stances depending on political winds and regulatory developments. The result is a patchwork market, where progress is uneven and uncertainty clouds both consumer and investor confidence. Industry experts have begun to sound the alarm. Suzanne Russo, an analyst at Resources for the Future, warns that the current policy uncertainty and industry foot-dragging have created a fragmented and unpredictable market in the United States. This is delaying vital investments in charging infrastructure, battery production, and domestic manufacturing capacity. John Bozzella, from the Alliance for Automotive Innovation, highlights another challenge. Tariffs on key automotive components are driving up costs for American manufacturers, making it even harder for them to compete with nimble, cost-efficient Chinese brands. As these foreign competitors surge ahead, American and European automakers risk falling irreversibly behind, not just in market share, but also in innovation and relevance. Why would these automotive titans, companies that have dominated the industry for generations, be so resistant to the very transition they publicly champion? The answer lies in economics, risk aversion, and the daunting challenge of transforming century-old business models. Traditional car makers have invested billions of dollars in factories optimized for gasoline engines, sprawling dealer networks, and supply chains deeply intertwined with fossil fuel industries. The shift to electric vehicles is not just a technological leap, it's an existential gamble that directly threatens their core profits and decades of accumulated expertise. Take Germany as a case in point. Long regarded as the powerhouse of European car manufacturing, Germany faced a dramatic reversal after the government ended subsidies for electric vehicles in late 2024. In the first quarter of the following year, electric vehicle sales dropped by 7%, exposing just how fragile and policy-dependent the transition can be. The United States faces a similar dilemma. After years of generous tax credits and incentives, shifting political winds have left both buyers and manufacturers in a fog of uncertainty. Yet, as Scaringe points out, these policy swings may ultimately favor pure electric vehicle players like Rivian and Tesla, who are less dependent on fleeting incentives and more committed to long-term innovation and product improvement. The stakes in this global chess match are enormous. Analysts predict that by the end of this decade, the global car industry will be almost unrecognizable. The top 5 electric vehicle manufacturers are expected to control the lion's share of the market by the year 2030. Chinese brands such as BYD and NIO are already challenging Tesla's dominance, propelled by a domestic supply chain that makes their vehicles affordable, technologically advanced, and quick to reach market. In 2024, Tesla's global market share slipped to 18%, while BYD's rose to 15%, reflecting a rapid shift in competitive dynamics. In Europe, the removal of subsidies has led to volatility, with some markets pressing ahead and others stalling, creating a patchwork of progress and hesitation. Technology, however, continues to act as both equalizer and disruptor. The next wave of advancements, solid-state batteries, promises to make electric vehicles lighter, safer, and capable of traveling over 600 miles on a single charge. Charging infrastructure is expanding at an ever-increasing pace, with ultra-fast chargers and even wireless charging technologies looming on the horizon. In China, extended-range electric vehicles, those that pair a battery with a small gasoline engine, have captured 1/5 of the market, providing a practical bridge for consumers worried about range limitations and charging infrastructure. But with greater connectivity and reliance on software, new risks and challenges emerge. Cybersecurity has become a frontline concern, as hackers target not just individual cars, but entire charging networks and vehicle fleets. Energy management is also critical. As millions of electric vehicles plug into the grid, utilities must invest heavily in smart charging solutions to prevent blackouts and ensure efficient power distribution. The Edison Electric Institute has cautioned that without significant upgrades to grid infrastructure, charging demand during peak hours could strain the existing system, potentially leading to widespread disruptions. This opens new opportunities for innovative firms, particularly those from the technology sector, to carve out a space in the evolving automotive landscape. The question now is, can legacy automakers, masters of steel, pistons, and gasoline, adapt to a digital, data-driven future? Or will software-centric challengers seize the advantage? For everyday drivers, these seismic industry shifts are more than just boardroom intrigue. They have real, tangible impacts on wallets, lifestyles, and the very experience of driving. As competition intensifies, electric vehicle prices are expected to drop even further, making them accessible to a broader segment of the population. A recent McKinsey survey found that 2/5 of potential buyers are willing to pay a premium for a car that offers over 300 miles of range on a single charge. In urban centers, buyers are especially attracted to advanced driver assistance systems, features that make city driving safer and more convenient. By contrast, rural drivers tend to prioritize the total cost of ownership and the practical advantages of expanded charging networks, especially as government and private investments increasingly target underserved regions. The expansion of charging infrastructure is a linchpin for mass adoption. The United States Department of Energy points to the bipartisan infrastructure law as a critical factor in extending the charging network, particularly into rural and underserved communities. The cost of public charging in the United States rose by 18% in 2024. Making home and workplace charging options more attractive for many consumers. As automakers and policymakers place greater emphasis on equitable access, the goal is to ensure that no community, urban, suburban, or rural, is left behind in this technological transition. Yet, the path forward is anything but smooth. The electric vehicle market is becoming more competitive, more volatile, and at times, more uncertain. Policy shifts, fluctuating incentives, and differing standards from region to region make it challenging for both manufacturers and buyers to make long-term decisions. S&P Global Mobility recently revised its forecast downward for battery electric vehicle market share in 2025, citing consumer hesitancy due to high prices, inconsistent charging options, and unpredictable policy landscapes. J.D. Power, in a recent report, described 2025 as a reset year for the electric vehicle sector, a period when both manufacturers and buyers must adapt to rapidly shifting realities, reevaluate their strategies, and prepare for a new phase of market development. So where does this leave you, the consumer, trying to navigate these turbulent waters? First, don't be distracted by flashy advertising or sweeping pronouncements from industry incumbents. Watch what companies actually do. Are they genuinely investing in better batteries, expanding the charging network, and delivering meaningful innovation? Or are they simply making promises while working behind the scenes to protect their legacy business models? The next few years will bring a wave of new models, better affordability, and an unprecedented range of choices. Upstart brands and global leaders are challenging the old guard at every turn, forcing everyone to raise their game. If you're in the market for a new vehicle, keep your options wide open. Don't overlook the offerings of non-traditional brands or tech companies entering the automotive arena. Many of these newcomers are pioneering features like over-the-air software updates, advanced safety systems, and seamless integration with your digital life. As battery technology continues to improve, the so-called range anxiety, a major concern for many potential buyers, will gradually fade. Extended range and plug-in hybrid vehicles are serving as vital stepping stones for those not yet ready to make the leap to fully electric, addressing both range and charging concerns while still delivering significant environmental benefits. The broader implications of this transition extend well beyond individual drivers. The Inflation Reduction Act is projected to reduce United States carbon emissions by 40% by the year 2030. With increased electric vehicle adoption playing a crucial role. As more electric vehicles hit the road, air quality in major cities improves, dependence on oil shrinks, and entire industries, from energy utilities to insurance providers, are compelled to adapt or risk irrelevance. The ripple effects will be felt in every corner of the global economy, from job creation in battery manufacturing to the rise of entirely new business models centered around mobility and data services. And here's an irony that legacy automakers might not want you to know. Each time they stall or resist electrification, they inadvertently strengthen the very competitors they fear most. By dragging their feet on innovation, these giants are creating space for new players, especially Chinese manufacturers and pure electric vehicle startups, to capture the market and define the future of mobility. The more they cling to the past, the faster they lose their grip on the road ahead. In the final analysis, the greatest resistance to electric vehicles isn't rooted in politics, policy, or even technological hurdles. It's about vision, courage, and the willingness to embrace profound change. History is filled with cautionary tales. Think of Kodak, Blockbuster, or Nokia, of once dominant leaders who failed to adapt and were swept aside by new paradigms. Today's automotive titans face a similar fork in the road. Will they double down on legacy models and risk obsolescence, or will they reinvent themselves for a cleaner, smarter, and more sustainable future? As the pace of the electric revolution accelerates, the real question isn't whether electric vehicles will ultimately win. That outcome now seems inevitable. The real questions are, who will shape and lead that victory? Will it be the old guard, relying on familiar playbooks, or the bold innovators, unafraid to seize the moment and redefine what transportation can be? And, perhaps most importantly, will you be ready to make the switch when the opportunity arrives? If you found this deep dive into the electrification battle thought-provoking, remember to like, subscribe, and share your insights in the comments below. Which automaker do you believe will dominate the electric future? Would you trust a tech company over a traditional car maker for your next vehicle? The world of global economics and technology is evolving at a breathtaking pace. So fasten your seatbelt, because the journey ahead is only just beginning. But let's go even deeper. The electric vehicle revolution is more than a technological or economic transformation. It's a societal shift, reminiscent of other watershed moments in history. Consider the transition from horse-drawn carriages to gasoline-powered cars in the early 20th century. That shift didn't happen overnight. It was met with skepticism, resistance from entrenched interests, and years of infrastructure build-out. Gas stations replaced blacksmith shops, and new industries sprouted up around the burgeoning car culture. The winners were not always the early pioneers, but those who adapted quickly to changing realities. Now we're witnessing a similar inflection point. The winners of this new era will be those who combine agility, vision, and the courage to disrupt their own business models. As Colin McCarricher of Bloomberg Hyperdrive notes, China's electric vehicle market benefits from a mature domestic supply chain and manufacturing efficiencies that make electric vehicles more affordable than gasoline cars for many buyers. This has allowed Chinese brands not only to dominate their home market, but also to mount a serious challenge on the global stage. Meanwhile, in North America and Europe, the path has been rockier. American electric vehicle market share is expected to reach only 1/10 by 2025. With growth decelerating due to policy uncertainties and economic headwinds. European electric vehicle sales, by contrast, are projected to surge by 1/5 in 2025, propelled by stricter emission standards and incentives in key markets. But the removal of subsidies in some countries, like Germany, has created pockets of volatility and exposed the fragility of progress that is overly reliant on government support. Zooming in on the technology, the march toward ever more capable batteries is relentless. CATL's Kirin battery, with a record-setting energy density of 255 watt-hours per kilogram, is already enabling practical ranges for electric vehicles that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago. The next frontier, solid-state batteries, could rewrite the rules entirely, offering a 50% improvement in energy density, faster charging, and longer lifespans. Automakers that fail to invest in these technologies risk being left behind as the consumer expectation bar rises ever higher. But electrification doesn't stop with the vehicle itself. As cars become rolling computers, software is emerging as the new battleground. Lenny LaRocca of KPMG highlights that automakers must transform their business models to focus on software and services, as the margins on physical hardware continue to shrink. This shift opens the door for tech giants, from Silicon Valley to Shenzhen, to capture an even greater share of automotive value, blurring the lines between car companies and technology firms. There are also challenges on the horizon that demand collective action. The Edison Electric Institute has warned that increased electric vehicle adoption will require substantial investments in the power grid to support rising charging demand, especially during peak hours. Smart charging solutions, grid modernization, and even vehicle-to-grid technology, where cars can feed power back into the grid, are being explored as ways to balance supply and demand. Meanwhile, cybersecurity is no longer a hypothetical concern. The more connected our vehicles become, the more vulnerable they are to sophisticated cyberattacks, targeting everything from navigation systems to charging networks. On the consumer side, the experience of owning an electric vehicle is steadily improving. Charging times are falling, ranges are increasing, and maintenance costs are typically lower than for conventional cars. Plug-in hybrid and extended-range vehicles are providing critical stepping stones for drivers who are not quite ready to go fully electric, addressing both range anxiety and infrastructure concerns. Government action remains a powerful lever. The United States bipartisan infrastructure law is targeting expanded charging access in rural and underserved areas, aiming to close the gap in electric vehicle accessibility. As public and private investments pour into charging networks, the hope is that charging an electric vehicle will soon be as convenient as refueling a gasoline car, no matter where you live. Yet, as S&P Global Mobility and J.D. Power have both noted, the coming years will be a time of recalibration. Automakers must adapt to a rapidly evolving market, where consumer preferences, policy direction, and technological advancement intersect in unpredictable ways. Those able to pivot quickly and invest in long-term innovation will be positioned to thrive. Those who cling to old models risk the fate of the many giants who failed to adapt in previous industrial revolutions. In summary, the electrification of transportation is not a question of if, but when and who will emerge as the leaders. The market is becoming more competitive, more global, and more dynamic with every passing year. The choices made by automakers, governments, and consumers in the next few years will shape the future not just of mobility, but of the global economy and the environment for generations to come. So as you consider your own place in this unfolding saga, remember, history is made by those who embrace change, not by those who resist it. The electric vehicle revolution is accelerating. Will you be part of the movement, or will you watch from the sidelines as a new era of mobility takes hold? If you enjoyed this comprehensive exploration of the electric vehicle revolution, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share your perspective in the comments below. Which company do you see as the next global leader? Would you trust a technology upstart over a legacy carmaker? The world of global economics and technology is evolving at warp speed.